The survey vessel Harmonious Discovery drifted through the outer edges of the solar system, its sensors scanning the third planet from the yellow star with mechanical precision. Captain Vorn of the Talaxian species stood before the holographic display, his four eyes narrowing as the data streams confirmed what the Council had long suspected. Another primitive world. Another species ripe for integration. Scan complete. Captain, his science officer reported, her voice carrying the formal tones expected of Council servants. They possess basic atomic technology, primitive computational systems, and fragmented political structures. Vorn allowed himself what passed for a smile among his kind classification. Class 7, perhaps Class 6, if we are generous. The officer replied, they call themselves humans within 3 cycles. The Council had dispatched Ambassador Threll to deliver the standard integration protocol. His vessel appeared in Earth's sky without warning, massive and imposing, its hull reflecting the sun's light like a terrible new moon. Every screen on Earth suddenly displayed the same image, Threll's elongated face, his expression one of practiced benevolence mixed with unmistakable superiority. People of Earth, he began, his words translated into every human language simultaneously. We are the Galactic Council, representatives of 847 species across this galaxy. You have been discovered, and your world now falls under our jurisdiction. Commander Sarah Chen watched the broadcast from her office at the United Earth Defense Initiative headquarters in Geneva. Her hands gripped the desk edge hard enough to make her knuckles white around the world. Billions of humans watched in stunned silence as Threll continued, you will submit to Council authority immediately. Your military forces will be disbanded, your technological development will be restricted to approved levels. You will provide tribute in resources, materials, and labor as determined by the Council Economic Board in return. We offer you protection, limited access to our technology, and the privilege of eventually earning a seat among the civilized species. The transmission ended, replaced by a document appearing on every networked device, the submission accords, written in bureaucratic language that left no doubt about humanity's future status. Earth's governments scrambled to respond. The United Nations called an emergency session. Military forces went on high alert. Scientists analyzed every second of the transmission, searching for weaknesses in the alien technology. Commander Chen found herself part of a hastily assembled diplomatic team. 3 weeks later, she stood aboard the Harmonious Discovery, facing Ambassador Threll across a conference table that seemed designed to make humans feel small. Surely we can negotiate terms, Chen said, maintaining her professional composure despite the rage simmering beneath. The resources you demand would cripple our economy. The labor conscription would devastate our societies. Threll made a dismissive gesture. These terms are standard for all Class 7 integrations. Your feelings on the matter are irrelevant. Sign the accords, or face the consequences. What consequences? Asked General Martinez, the grizzled veteran sitting beside Chen. We may be primitive by your standards, but we won't submit to slavery without resistance. The ambassador's expression shifted to something resembling pity. Resistance. He repeated, you understand nothing of the Council's power. We have maintained order across this galaxy for over 4,000 of your years. Countless species have stood where you stand now. All of them made the same choice. Submission or extinction. We will not surrender our freedom, Chen said. Firmly Threll stood, his towering frame dominating the room. Then you have chosen demonstration. The diplomatic team was returned to Earth within hours. 2 days later, 3 Council warships appeared in orbit without warning, without further negotiation. They opened fire. The International Space Station vanished in a brilliant flash. The Chinese Tiangong Station followed moments later. A small defense fleet Earth had launched, hoping to show strength, was annihilated before they could even charge their weapons. 2,300 people died in less than 5 minutes. Council ships then targeted and destroyed a military satellite network, rendering half of Earth's communication systems useless. Commander Chen watched the destruction from a bunker deep beneath Geneva, tears streaming down her face as the casualty reports came in. She recognized the names on the list, colleagues, friends, Fellow soldiers who had believed they could make a difference, this is only the beginning, came Threll's voice over the emergency channels. Sign the accords, or we will begin targeting your surface installations. You have 12 of your hours to decide. The world's leaders convened in frantic video conferences. Some argued for continued resistance, for fighting, even if it meant annihilation. Others pointed to the impossible odds, the technology gap that made victory unthinkable. President Okafor of the African Union spoke the words many were thinking. We cannot fight what we do not understand. We need time, time to learn, time to prepare. If we die now, we die for nothing with 8 hours remaining. Earth's governments made their decision. Commander Chen was chosen to deliver Earth's surrender, a task she accepted with a heavy heart. She stood before the cameras, her uniform pressed and perfect, her expression carefully neutral. On behalf of humanity, she said, each word tasting like ash in her mouth. We accept the Council's terms. We will sign the submission accords. The document was signed in a ceremony broadcast across the galaxy. An example to any other species who might harbor thoughts of resistance. Earth became vassal territory 849, subject to Council law and Council exploitation within months. The changes began mining operations, stripped resources from Africa and South America. Thousands of humans were conscripted into labor battalions, shipped off-world to build Council infrastructure on distant planets. Advanced research was forbidden. Any technology beyond approved limits was confiscated. Council administrators arrived to oversee Earth's governments, reducing human leaders to little more than puppets. Commander Chen resigned her commission in protest, unable to serve under Council oversight. But she did not disappear. Instead, she went underground, along with others who refused to accept humanity's new status, in abandoned facilities and secret meetings. They began to plan. General Martinez joined her, bringing his tactical experience. Dr. James Okonkwo, a Nigerian physicist who had been studying the Council's technology, added his brilliant mind to their cause. Lowly, carefully, they began building a network of resistance fighters, scientists, and sympathizers. They studied every piece of Council technology they could access, analyzed every transmission, watched every Council soldier who walked Earth's streets. They think they've conquered us, Chen told her inner circle during a clandestine meeting in an old subway tunnel beneath New York. They think we're broken. Let them think that. Let them believe we're just another subjugated species, too primitive to matter, while they're confident in their superiority. We'll be learning everything we can about them. Dr. Okonkwo pulled up holographic data on a stolen Council tablet. I've been analyzing their ship movements, their communication protocols, their tactical responses. There's something interesting here. They're predictable, extremely predictable. What do you mean? Martinez asked. I mean, they do everything by procedure, by protocol, by tradition. Their military doctrine appears unchanged for centuries, perhaps millennia. They've never needed to adapt because they've never faced real resistance. Chen leaned forward, a spark of hope igniting in her chest. For the first time since the surrender. So they have weaknesses. Everyone has weaknesses. Okonkwo replied, the question is whether we can exploit them before they crush us completely. Outside, in the world above, humanity continued its daily existence under Council rule, but in the shadows, in the forgotten places where the Council's attention did not reach, something new was growing. It would take years of preparation, years of sacrifice and secrecy. But Commander Sarah, Chen made herself a promise as she looked at the determined faces around her. Humanity would not remain on its knees forever. The Council had made a critical error in assuming Earth would accept subjugation quietly. They had underestimated the human capacity for stubborn, relentless, creative resistance, and that mistake, Chen believed, would eventually cost them everything. 5 years had passed since Earth bent its knee to the Galactic Council, and the scars of subjugation ran deep across the planet's entire regions had been stripped of resources. Leaving behind cratered landscapes and polluted waters, millions of humans had been shipped off-world, working in Council mining operations or construction projects on distant planets under conditions that barely qualified as humana. Council administrators walked Earth's streets with casual arrogance, secure in their superiority but beneath the surface. In the hidden places where the Council's surveillance could not reach, the resistance had grown from a handful of idealists into a sophisticated network. Spanning every continent, Commander Sarah Chen had aged visibly in those 5 years. Stress and sleepless nights etching lines into her face, she stood now in what the Resistance called the Warren, a converted underground facility in the Australian outback that served as their primary research and training center around her. Dozens of scientists and engineers worked at stations cobbled together from stolen Council technology and repurposed human equipment. Report. She said to Dr. James O'Connor, who had become the Resistance's chief scientist and strategist. Nigerian physicist pulled up a three-dimensional tactical display. Showing Council ship movements across the Sol system and beyond, we've analyzed 5 years of data, Okonkwo began, his voice carrying the excitement of someone who had discovered something significant: ship movements, communication patterns, military responses to incidents across the galaxy, tactical doctrine from every conflict we could access records of, and... General Martinez prompted. Leaning over the display with the intensity of a career soldier who sensed opportunity, the Council military is ossified. Okonkwo declared their doctrine hasn't evolved in over 2,000 years. They win through overwhelming technological superiority. Nothing more when they encounter resistance. They apply more force until the problem disappears. No adaptation, no creativity, no tactical flexibility. Chen felt her pulse quicken. You're certain? Completely, Okonkwo confirmed. I've cross-referenced their responses to 73 different rebellions and conflicts. Same patterns. Same predictable escalation there, like a chess player who only knows one opening, becomes confused when their opponent deviates from expected moves. Martinez grinned. The expression wolfish. They've never fought guerrilla warfare. Never faced an enemy willing to break their rules of engagement exactly. Okonkwo agreed. Council military philosophy is based on honor codes and formalized combat. They announce their intentions, engage in direct confrontation, follow strict protocols. It's all very civilized and completely exploitable. What about their technology? Chen asked. Can we match it? Not directly. Okonkwo admitted their ships are faster, their weapons more powerful, their shields more advanced, but technology is only one factor in warfare throughout human history. Technological inferiors have defeated superior forces through superior tactics, strategy, and adaptability. The Viet Cong against America, the Afghans against the Soviets, and then NATO, the Patriots against the British Empire. Point made. Chen interrupted, but those conflicts took years. Decades. We may not have that long, which is why we need allies, said a new voice. Captain Raina Vask entered the room, her Council military uniform marking her as one of the Resistance's most valuable assets. She was Kelvorian, a species that had been conquered by the Council 3 centuries earlier. Her people still harbored deep resentment at their subjugation, and Vask was one of several aliens who had secretly joined the human resistance. I've been cultivating contacts across multiple species. Vask continued. The Council maintains order through fear and bureaucracy, not loyalty. Many species are as oppressed as you humans, but they lack the organization or will to resist until... Now Chen gestured for her to continue. The Kelvorians remember their freedom, the Drenni chafe, under tribute. Requirements that starve their worlds. The Yoth have been denied access to medical technology that could cure a plague affecting their homeworld because they haven't earned it through sufficient service. There are dozens of species with grievances. Hundreds of individuals within Council systems who would support a resistance if they believed it could succeed. Then we need to show them success. Martinez said. Small victories. Proof that the Council can be beaten. Okonkwo nodded enthusiastically. I have a target in mind. The Council maintains a supply depot in the Kepler 442 system. It's lightly guarded because it's considered completely secure. If we could capture it. Capture? Chen interrupted. Not destroy. Capture. Okonkwo confirmed. We need their technology intact: ships, weapons, computer systems, everything we can reverse engineer and adapt. Destruction is easy. Theft is valuable. The plan took 3 months to prepare them. Resistance had been stealing Council equipment piece by piece for years, but nothing as ambitious as an entire frigate that changed when Captain Vask identified the ISC. Relentless. A Council patrol ship that would be making a routine stop at Earth's orbital station. The crew was small, security was lax, and Vask had access codes that would get a boarding team past initial defenses. The operation launched on a Tuesday morning. Earth Team, a carefully selected team of 12 resistance fighters, led by Martinez himself, infiltrated the orbital station disguised as labor conscripts, moved through the station's corridors with practiced ease, avoiding security checkpoints using routes Vask had mapped out the relentless sat in its docking bay. The crew having disembarked for shore, Lev Martinez and his team slipped aboard, neutralized the skeleton crew with non-lethal weapons, and locked down the ship's systems. Vask transmitted the proper clearance codes from her position on the station to Council Traffic Control. It appeared as a routine departure by the time anyone realized what had happened. The Relentless was accelerating out of Earth orbit, its human crew frantically reading stolen manuals and trying to understand the alien controls. "This is insane," muttered Lieutenant Park, the Resistance member at the navigation console. "We barely know how to fly this thing, then learn quickly," Martinez replied, remarkably calm for someone stealing a starship. "We've got maybe 20 minutes before they send pursuit," but the pursuit never came. Vask had done her job perfectly, filing false flight plans and using her authority to delay any investigation. By the time Council security realized the Relentless was missing, it had vanished into the outer solar system, heading for a hidden base in the Kuiper Belt that the Resistance had been preparing for exactly this purpose. The base was little more than hollowed-out asteroids connected by pressurized tunnels, hidden among billions of rocks and ice chunks, but it had power, life support, and workshops where Okonkwo and his team could begin their real work. The Relentless was dissected with scientific precision. Every system was analyzed, documented, and reverse-engineered. Engineers worked alongside Kelvorian technicians and a handful of other alien defectors, sharing knowledge and breaking down the Council's technological advantages piece by piece. Their quantum communication system is actually less sophisticated than I expected, Okonkwo explained to Chen during her first visit to the Kuiper base. "It relies on predictable encryption patterns. We can intercept and decode their transmissions with enough processing power in their shields." Chen asked. "Powerful, but designed to deflect energy weapons." Okonkwo replied. "They're less effective against kinetic projectiles, especially unconventional ones. The Council abandoned kinetic weapons centuries ago as primitive, which means their defenses don't prioritize stopping them." Chen smiled grimly. "Humanity has never stopped perfecting ways to throw rocks at each other." "Exactly," Okonkwo agreed. "We take their advanced technology and combine it with human tactical thinking. We use weapons they've forgotten how to defend against. We attack in ways their doctrine doesn't account for. We make them adapt. An adaptation is something they've forgotten how to do." Over the following months, the Kuiper base became a hive of activity. More stolen ships arrived, each one carefully taken through methods that avoided raising alarm. The Resistance recruited more Council species, individuals who had their own reasons to hate the system. They trained in tactics the Council would never expect: ambushes, false flag operations, hit-and-run attacks, psychological warfare. Chen watched it all come together with a mixture of pride and terror. They were building something unprecedented, a true multi-species rebellion, but they were also preparing for war against an empire that had crushed every challenge for millennia. "Are we ready?" Martinez asked her one evening as they stood looking out at the ice and rock of the Kuiper Belt. "No," Chen admitted, "but we're as ready as we're going to get. The Council grows more complacent every day. They think Earth is conquered, pacified. They've moved on to exploiting us while focusing their attention elsewhere. Then it's time to remind them we exist." Martinez said. Chen nodded slowly. "Operation Prometheus, we hit them where they don't expect." "How they don't expect?" "We show the galaxy that humans don't stay down, and we pray we survive the response." The first strike was planned for 3 weeks. Hence teams were already moving into position. Supplies were being cached. Intelligence was being gathered. The Resistance was about to announce itself to the galaxy in the most violent way possible. Operation Prometheus began not with a declaration of war, but with silence across 3 different star systems. Council installations went dark in the span of 6 hours. Communications ceased. Automated systems failed, and when Council reinforcements arrived to investigate, they found devastation that made no tactical sense. The supply depot at Kepler 442, the same one Dr. Okonkwo had identified months earlier, was now a drifting wreck, but this was no simple destruction. The attacking force had turned the depot's own automated defenses against it, hacking into the security systems and reprogramming them to target council ships and personnel. By the time anyone realized what was happening, the depot's defensive batteries had destroyed 2 patrol vessels and killed over 300 council personnel. The attackers had then looted the facility of every piece of valuable technology before vanishing in the Tau Ceti system. A diplomatic convoy escorting Ambassador Threll himself came under attack using cloaking technology. The council had developed cloaking centuries ago, but deemed it dishonorable and banned its military use. The resistance had no such qualms. 3 ships materialized from nowhere, unleashed a devastating barrage of kinetic weapons that the council shields were ill-equipped to handle, and disappeared again before reinforcements could have Threll survived. But his flagship was crippled, and half his escort was destroyed. The third strike hit a council prison facility on the moon of a gas giant in the Epsilon Eridani system. This attack was different from the others, precise, surgical, and designed to rescue rather than destroy. A team led by General Martinez infiltrated the facility using stolen access codes, freed over 2,000 prisoners from a dozen different species, and escaped before the alarm even sounded. Among the freed prisoners were several high-ranking resistance members from other species who had been captured in previous failed rebellions. The galaxy's communication networks exploded with news of the attacks for the first time in recorded history. Someone had struck the council successfully and repeatedly. The methods were shocking. Hacking, ambushes, weapons the council considered beneath civilized warfare, tactics that violated every convention of honorable combat. Savages, declared Council Military Commander Vosk during an emergency session. These humans fight without honor, without decency. They are proving themselves unworthy of civilization. But even as he spoke, other voices in the council chambers were asking more dangerous questions. How did they obtain cloaking technology? Demanded Representative Kell of the Yath Assembly. How did they hack systems that were supposed to be unhackable? Where did they acquire the ships and weapons for these attacks? The investigation revealed uncomfortable truths. Captain Raina Vosk had disappeared from her post, along with several other Kelvorian officers' equipment. It's been going missing for months across multiple worlds. The humans had been building their resistance network under the council's nose. And worse, they had recruited other species to their cause. This cannot stand, Ambassador Threll declared, his pride wounded by the attack on his convoy. We must respond with overwhelming force. Show every species in the galaxy what happens to those who defy the council. There was debate, heated and prolonged. Some council members argued for caution, suggesting that brutality might spark exactly the kind of widespread rebellion they feared. Others wanted complete annihilation, the kind of genocidal response that would make Earth a cautionary tale for millennium. The end. Military pragmatism. When the Council dispatched the Fifth Armada, one of their most powerful fleets, led by War Master Krell of the Vorian Empire. Krell was legendary within Council military circles. Having suppressed 17 rebellions across his 4-century career, he had never been defeated, never even been challenged seriously. His appointment sent a clear message. The Council would tolerate no further resistance. News of the Fifth Armada's deployment reached the resistance within hours. Courtesy of sympathetic sources within the Council, Bureaucracy Commander Chen convened an emergency meeting in the Warren. Her War Council gathered around the tactical display. 247 ships, she said, highlighting the Armada's composition, including 12 dreadnoughts, each one capable of destroying a planetary defense grid single-handedly. They'll be here in 3 weeks. We can't fight that, said one of her lieutenants, voicing what everyone was thinking. Not in direct combat, no. Chen agreed. We can't, but we're not going to fight them directly, Doctor. Okonkwo expanded the display to show the entire solar system. We've been preparing for this since we started. While the Council thinks we've been hiding in the Kuiper Belt, we've been turning our entire system into a fortress over the following weeks. The Resistance's true preparations became clear. Weapons platforms had been hidden throughout the asteroid belt. Camouflaged to look like ordinary rocks, Jupiter's moons had been converted into military bases. Their facilities buried deep beneath ice, and rock Saturn's rings contained thousands of autonomous mines. Waiting to be activated, the Resistance had even weaponized Earth's orbital debris field. Turning centuries of space junk into kinetic kill vehicles, were using the system itself as a weapon. Okonkwo explained, every planet's gravity well becomes a tactical advantage. Every asteroid field becomes an ambush point, we make them come to us. Fight on our terms. In terrain we understand better than they do. General Martinez was overseeing the military preparations. Drilling volunteers and resistance fighters in tactics that would have horrified Council military instructors no honor. No fair play, no rules of engagement, he told his troops. We hit them from hiding. We run when they pursue. We strike when they're confused. We make them chase us through minefields and gravity wells. We use every dirty trick humans have ever invented. And we invent new ones. The Council broadcasts began 2 days before the Fifth Armada's. Arrival War Master Krell's face appeared on every screen in the solar system. His expression one of cold determination, humans of Earth. He declared, your rebellion ends now, surrender those responsible for the recent attacks. Disband your resistance and submit to Council justice, do this. And your species may survive, refuse. We will cleanse this system of your presence entirely. Commander Chen's response was broadcast from a hidden transmitter. Her message sent not just to the Fifth Armada, but to the entire galaxy. War Master Krell, she said. Standing in her uniform with Earth visible behind her through a viewport, humanity submits to no one. Not anymore. You come here expecting us to bow? To surrender, to accept your judgment instead. You're going to learn what happens when you push humans too far. You're going to learn that we don't fight by your rules. And you're going to learn that sometimes the primitive species teaches the advanced one a lesson in humility. The transmission ended, and Chen turned to her staff, all units to battle stations. Execute the defensive plan. Show them what humans do when we're cornered. The Fifth Armada entered the solar system with the kind of confidence that comes from absolute superiority. They detected the weapons platforms in the asteroid belt almost immediately, but dismissed them as insignificant. They saw the bases on Jupiter's moons and logged them as targets for later destruction. They completely missed the mines in Saturn's rings, the armed satellites hidden in Earth's debris field, and the dozens of modified Council ships lying dormant throughout the system. Their energy signatures. War Master Krell ordered a standard battle formation, the kind that had worked for centuries. His fleet would advance in waves, overwhelming any defense through sheer firepower. It was textbook Council military doctrine, predictable, overwhelming, and completely unprepared for what was about to happen. The battle began as the Fifth Armada crossed the orbit of Neptune. The first wave of Council ships suddenly found themselves under fire from weapons platforms they had dismissed as too primitive to matter. Kinetic railguns, launching projectiles at relativistic speeds, tore through shields designed to deflect energy weapons. The Council ships adapted, adjusting their shield frequencies. But then the second wave of attacks came. Hacked missiles. Their targeting systems reprogrammed to recognize Council ships as targets. These were the Council's own weapons, stolen months ago and turned against their creators as Krell's forces pushed deeper into the system. They encountered the asteroid field. What they thought was simple debris turned out to be an elaborate trap. Resistance fighters and small, highly maneuverable craft appeared from behind asteroids, fired devastating bursts of kinetic and energy weapons, and disappeared again before the Council could respond. They're not fighting honorably. Krell's tactical officer complained, they're using ambush tactics. Hit and run attacks, then adapt, Krell growled. Though even he was beginning to feel the first stirrings of uncertainty, his forces had suffered losses. Minor ones, but losses nonetheless. No enemy was supposed to last this long against the Fifth Armada. The battle continued for 18 hours. A running fight that stretched from the outer system toward Earth itself. Every kilometer of space cost the Council ships. Every engagement revealed new tactics the humans had prepared. Near Jupiter, Council ships were lured into the gas giant's powerful gravity well. Where their maneuvering was restricted, the Resistance attacked from Jupiter's moons. using the planet's magnetic field to disrupt Council targeting systems. The Council chambers descended into chaos, unlike anything seen in over a millennium. Representatives from 847 species shouted over each other, their various forms of communication creating a cacophony that the translation systems struggled to process. Holographic displays showed the same devastating footage on repeat. Council ships burning. The Fifth Armada retreating. War Master Krell's flagship breaking apart under fire from human weapons. This is unprecedented, declared High Counselor Ven. His aged Throsian features twisted in disbelief in 4,000 years. No vassal species has ever defeated a Council armada. They didn't just resist, they won. Then we send everything, Ambassador Threll demanded, his voice sharp with rage. Every fleet, every ship, every weapon we reduce, earth to molten slag and make their extinction a lesson that echoes for 10,000 years. But other voices rose in opposition. Representative Kell of the Yoth stood, his translucent form shimmering. And what happens when we commit genocide against a species that the entire galaxy just watched defend itself successfully? What happens when the Drenni, the Kelvorians, the Sarthans, and 100 other oppressed species see us massacre the one group that proved the Council can bleed? We'd be sparking the very rebellion we fear most. The humans must be punished, insisted Commander Vosk. But Kell speaks truth. We are already seeing reports of unrest on 17 worlds, protests, strikes, even violence. In some cases, the humans' victory has inspired exactly what we feared. Hope. The debate raged for hours. The Council split between those who wanted total war and those who counseled caution. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the effects of Earth's victory rippled outward like shockwaves on Kelvor Prime. Crowds gathered in the capital squares, chanting slogans of liberation. Security forces struggled to maintain order as thousands demanded the same freedoms humans had fought for. Andren, the planetary governor, found himself facing a general strike as workers refused to meet tribute quotas when he threatened punishment. The workers pointed to Earth and asked a simple question: what are you going to do? Kill us all? Similar scenes played out across dozens of worlds. Species that had been subjugated for decades or centuries, suddenly remembering what resistance looked like. The Council's authority, built on the assumption of invincibility, cracked under the weight of demonstrated vulnerability in the Sol system. Commander Chen and her staff worked frantically to prepare for what they knew was coming. The victory had bought them time, but it had also made them a symbol, and symbols attracted attention. Intelligence reports from our Council sources. Captain Vask reported during the morning briefing, the Council is debating their response, but the hardliners are gaining ground. They're calling it the human question and discussing solutions ranging from blockade to extermination. How long do we have? General Martinez asked. Best estimate, 2 months before they reach a decision, and another month to assemble whatever force they send. 3 months to prepare for the end of the world. Dr. Okonkwo muttered again. Chen stood and walked to the viewport. Looking out at Earth, the planet showed its scars. Continents stripped by Council mining. Cities that had been depopulated by labor conscription. But also signs of recovery in the weeks since the battle. Humans had been working with renewed purpose. Rebuilding with Council technology they had captured. Learning from alien allies who had joined their cause, were not preparing for the end. Chen said firmly, we're preparing for the next phase. The battle in the Sol system was just the opening move. Now we take the fight to them. The staff exchanged glances. Uncertain whether their commander was inspired or insane, explain Martinez said carefully. Chen turned back to them, her expression determined. We've proven the Council can be beaten tactically. Now we need to prove they can be beaten strategically. We need to turn this from Earth's rebellion into a galactic movement over the following weeks. The Resistance launched a diplomatic offensive, as carefully planned as any military operation. Encrypted communications were sent to Resistance cells on dozens of worlds. Coordinating actions and sharing tactics, Captain Vask and other alien members of the Resistance traveled to their homeworlds, spreading the message that the Council's power was an illusion maintained by Fear Dr. Conquo worked on a different kind of weapon: information. Resistance had captured vast amounts of Council data during their raids, and much of it was damning evidence of Council corruption. records of resources being hoarded while subject species starved, communications revealing the casual contempt. Council leadership held for the species they claimed to protect. We release this gradually. Okonkwo explained to Chen, create a steady drumbeat of revelations. Let the galaxy see the Council for what it really is. Not benevolent protectors, but exploitative parasites, the information campaign began subtly. Documents leaked to independent news networks. Evidence provided to investigative journalists across multiple species within weeks. The stories began appearing. Corruption scandals, cover-ups, evidence of Council brutality that had been hidden for centuries. The Council tried to suppress the information, but it was too widespread. To well-document, each attempt to censor the revelations only generated more attention and more questions about what the Council was trying to hide. Meanwhile, the military preparations continued. The Sol system was transformed into the most heavily fortified location in the known. Galaxy Earth's moon was hollowed out and converted into a massive weapons platform. Mars became a shipyard where captured Council vessels were reverse-engineered, and improved upon the asteroid belt was turned into a maze of hidden bases, weapons platforms, and manufacturing facilities. Were building something unprecedented, Martinez told Chen as they toured one of the new orbital shipyards. A military force designed specifically to counter Council doctrine. Fast, mobile, unpredictable, everything the Council isn't. The Resistance fleet grew from the handful of stolen ships to over 100 vessels, each one a hybrid of Council technology and human innovation. They were smaller than Council dreadnoughts, but faster and more maneuverable. Their weapons combine energy and kinetic systems in ways the Council had never considered. Their crews were mixed. Humans working alongside Kelvorians, Yoth, Drenni, and members of a dozen other species. 2 months after the battle, the Council finally announced their decision. They would not attempt genocide. The political costs were too high. But they would impose a total blockade of the Sol system. No ships in or out. No communication, no trade. They would isolate Earth and let humanity starve. A slower death, but one that avoided the appearance of outright murder. The blockade fleet is assembling. Bask reported over 400 ships, drawn from multiple armadas. They're not trying to fight us. They're trying to contain us. Then we don't let ourselves be contained. Chen said, we break the blockade before it's fully in place. The operation was named Exodus, and it was perhaps the most audacious gamble the Resistance had attempted, rather than waiting for the Council to surround them. The human fleet would strike first, punching through the assembling blockade and scattering across the galaxy. We can't win by defending one system. Chen explained to the assembled ship captains, we need to become what the Council fears most, an idea that can't be contained. We spread out, link up with Resistance movements on other worlds, and show the galaxy that the Council can't even hold one system under siege. The fleet launched in 3 waves, each targeting a different section of the forming blockade. The Council forces, still assembling and not yet at full strength, found themselves facing the same aggressive, unconventional tactics that had defeated the 5th Armada. Human ships used the outer system's terrain to their advantage, leading Council vessels on chases through asteroid fields and around giant moons. When the Council tried to form defensive formations, the humans simply scattered and regrouped elsewhere. Captain Raina Vask led one group through a gap in the blockade near Jupiter, her mixed crew of humans and Kelvorians executing maneuvers that violated every principle of Council naval doctrine. Flew close enough to Jupiter's atmosphere that the gas giant's radiation interfered with Council sensors, then used the planet's gravity to slingshot themselves toward the outer system at speeds the pursuing Council ships couldn't match. General Martinez commanded another group in a direct assault on the blockades. Command Vessel It was a textbook human tactic. Identify the leader, neutralize them, watch the rigid command structure fall apart. The attack was brutal and effective. The command vessel crippled within minutes. Without central coordination, the blockade forces fell into confusion. Different ships following different protocols while the humans exploited every gap and hesitation. Commander Ashan herself led the final wave. Her flagship accompanied by the Resistance's most advanced vessels, they didn't try to fight through the blockade, they went over it, burning their fuel reserves to reach velocities that let them arc above the solar system's plane and emerge in the outer reaches. Where the blockade was thinnest 3 days of running, battles left the Council blockade shattered before it had even fully formed. Over 70% of the Resistance fleet escaped into interstellar space, carrying with them the promise of a widening rebellion. The ships that remained behind continued to harass Council forces, making it impossible for them to reform an effective siege. The Galactic Council homeworld of Sanctum Prime had stood for 4 millennia as the shining jewel of civilization, a monument to order and stability. Its towers reached into the clouds. Its gardens held plants from 1,000 worlds, and its halls had witnessed the peaceful resolution of countless conflicts. Never, no, in all those years had it seen warships approaching with hostile intent until now Commander Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the ISC Defiance, formerly a Council heavy cruiser and now the flagship of the human resistance fleet around her. Displays showed the defensive formations scrambling to intercept them. Council ships moving with the kind of panic that comes from facing the previously unthinkable. They're hailing us. Ash! Her communications officer reported multiple channels, all demanding we stand down. Immediately open a channel. Chen ordered all frequencies. Maximum broadcast range. Let the entire galaxy hear this. Her image appeared on billions of screens across Sanctum Prime and beyond. Transmitted through networks the Council couldn't jam without shutting down their entire communication infrastructure. Behind her stood General Martinez, Captain Vosk, and Dr. Okonkwo, representing the coalition that humanity had built. People of the Galactic Council, Chen began, her voice steady despite the magnitude of what she was doing. We are Commander Sarah Chen of Earth, and we come to your homeworld not to destroy it, but to deliver a message your leaders have refused to hear. The age of the Council's absolute authority is over. On Sanctum Prime, High Counselor Ven watched the transmission with a mixture of fury and grudging respect. Human fleet numbered only 40 ships, insignificant compared to the defensive forces protecting the Council homeworld. But they had made it here through a combination of speed, deception, and tactics that still baffled Council military analysts. Should we destroy them? Commander Vosk asked, though his voice lacked its usual confidence. They're in range of our planetary defenses and create martyrs. Representative Kell interjected, kill them now, and every species in the galaxy will see the Council murdering. Peace envoys, the humans outmaneuvered us again. Ven made a decision that would have been unthinkable months ago. Let them speak, let the galaxy hear what they have to say, then we will respond. Chen continued her broadcast, knowing she had only minutes before the Council made their choice. For 5 years, humanity lived under Council rule. We paid tribute in blood and resources. We watched our world stripped bare while Council administrators lived in luxury. We were told this was for our own good, that the Council protects the weak and guides the primitive, but we discovered the truth. Dr. Okonkwo stepped forward, activating a data stream that flooded Council networks with the evidence they had gathered. Financial records showing Council officials hoarding resources while subject species starved communications, revealing the contempt and racism that permeated Council leadership. Military reports documenting brutal suppressions of peaceful protests across dozens of worlds. The evidence poured out in a coordinated release that had been months in preparation. Too much data from too many sources for the Council to suppress. This is your benevolent Council. Chen declared, this is the civilization you claim to represent, built on exploitation, maintained through fear, justified by lies across the galaxy. The reaction was immediate in worlds that had been subjugated for generations. People watched the revelations with growing anger. Species that had believed in the Council's mission saw the ugly reality behind the rhetoric on Council core worlds. Citizens who had never questioned the system began to have doubts. The Council chambers filled rapidly as representatives scrambled to respond to the crisis ambassador. Thrall attempted to dismiss the evidence as fabrications, but his voice was drowned out by others demanding answers. Is this true? Demanded the Sarthon representative, her crystalline form flickering with agitation. Have we been complicit in this exploitation? Some of these records are from my own world's tribute assessments. The numbers don't match what our planetary Government reported, where did the missing resources go? The debate that erupted was unlike anything in Council history for 4,000 years. The Council had maintained unity through rigid protocol and hierarchical authority. Now that structure was cracking as species demanded accountability and truth on the defiance. Chen watched the chaos unfold with grim satisfaction. Second phase. She ordered Captain Vask activated another communication channel. This one directed at the Council military forces surrounding them. "Attention Council Defense Fleet," Vask said. Her Calvorian features familiar to many of the ship's crews. "I am Captain Raina Vask. Formerly of the Council Navy, I stand with humanity not because they conquered me, but because they showed me what freedom looks like. You've been told that humans are savages, that we are criminals and terrorists, but ask yourselves, who are the real savages? The species fighting for their freedom, or the empire that enslaves entire worlds?" Other alien members of the Resistance stepped forward, each one addressing their own species in the Council fleet. Drenni engineers spoke about conditions in Council mining operations that killed thousands. Yoth medic described watching children die from preventable diseases while the Council withheld medical technology. Throsian administrator revealed corruption that had diverted aid from disaster zones to Council officials' personal accounts. The psychological warfare was surgical and devastating. These weren't human propaganda. These were Council citizens. Species the defenders had grown up alongside, telling truths that couldn't be easily dismissed in the Council chambers. High Counselor Ven called for order. His voice cutting through the chaos enough, he declared the humans have made their point. Now we must decide how to respond. I move that we hear their formal demands. The motion passed with surprising speed. Pragmatism overcoming pride. An hour later, Commander Chen and a delegation of resistance leaders were escorted under flag of truce to the Council chambers. It was a surreal experience. Walking through halls designed to dwarf and intimidate visitors, past guards who watched them with expressions ranging from hatred to curiosity. The chamber itself was a massive amphitheater, with representatives from 847 species arranged in concentric rings. Chun and her delegation stood at the center. "Surrounded but unbowed, you have brought us to this point," High Counselor Ven said, his aged voice echoing through the chamber. "You have disrupted centuries of order, killed thousands, and now threaten our homeworld. What is it you want?" Commander Chen. Chen took a breath, knowing that the next words would define humanity's future and possibly reshape the galaxy we want, what every sapient being deserves: freedom, dignity, and the right to determine our own fate. We demand that the tribute system be abolished immediately. We demand that all species be granted full representation in Council decisions. Not token seats with no real power. We demand an end to the classification system that labels entire civilizations as inferior. And we demand that the Council transform from an empire that rules through force into a true coalition that governs through consent. The chamber erupted in response. Some species shouting support, others protesting the audacity. Ambassador Threll stood, his voice dripping with contempt. "You speak of freedom while leading a military force to our homeworld. You speak of dignity while using terrorist tactics. Why should the Council submit to demands made at gunpoint?" General Martinez stepped forward before Chen could respond, "Because the alternative is worse." He said bluntly. Commander Chen brought 40 ships here as a symbol, not as an invasion force. "We both know you could destroy us, but out there," he gestured to the galaxy beyond, "hundreds of human ships are linking up with resistance movements on dozens of worlds. Every day you delay, more species join our cause. Every act of repression creates more rebels. You can kill us here and now, but the idea of resistance will spread like wildfire. Or you can negotiate in good faith and help build something better." Representative Kell stood, his translucent form shimmering. "The Yoth Assembly supports these demands." He declared, "My people have suffered under the tribute system for 2 centuries. The humans have shown us that change is possible. I call for immediate reform one by one." Other representatives stood: the Drenni, the Calvorians, the Sarthans, species that had been conquered or exploited, voicing support for restructuring the Council. Not all species agreed. Many of the older, More powerful civilizations resisted any change to the status quo, but the momentum was undeniable. High Counselor Ven watched it unfold with an expression that might have been despair or relief. He had governed the council for over a century, maintaining the system he had inherited. Now he was witnessing its transformation, forced not by internal reform, but by external pressure from a species that had been subjugated for only 5 years. A recess, he declared. The council will deliberate and reconvene in 6 hours. The deliberations actually took 3 days. The resistance delegation was housed under guard in diplomatic quarters. Comfortable, but clearly imprisoned, Chun used the time to coordinate with her scattered fleet, ensuring that the momentum of rebellion continued even as negotiations proceeded.